What seems like a totally simple request at a pharmacy can sometimes be a sign of something much, much deeper going on. Today we're going to walk through one of those stories, a moment that really shines a light on that critical balance between patient safety, professional duty, and the very real human situations that unfold every day.
So just imagine you're standing at a busy pharmacy counter, and you hear those words. Sounds pretty straightforward, right? A helpful partner just running an errand. But for the pharmacist, that simple sentence was actually a massive red flag. So let's dig into exactly why.
All right, picture this. It's a busy Saturday morning. The pharmacy's buzzing. Lots of people are coming and going, and a man walks up to the counter. He has a very specific and what sounds like a pretty urgent request about his partner.
He's there to buy the morning after pill, or what's known as EHC. And the reason he gives, well, his partner's at home. She's not feeling well, and she asked him to grab it for her. I mean, on the surface, that sounds like a completely reasonable thing to do. But for a trained healthcare professional, that story immediately sets off alarm bells.
And right here is where you see the two worlds collide. For the man, this is just a quick stop, a simple errand to help his partner. But from the pharmacist's point of view, this is a third-party request that completely bypasses the confidential, one-on-one consultation. And that consultation, well, it's absolutely crucial for patient safety. It's two totally different perspectives on the exact same moment. So, you might be wondering, why the hesitation? Why can't the pharmacist just hand it over? Well, it's not about being difficult. It's about a really strict professional framework that's designed to protect the patient. Let's take a look at the rules that are always in play behind that counter.
The number one concern in a situation like this is the potential for coercion. Now, that's a word for when someone is being forced or threatened or pressured into doing something they don't actually want to do. And a partner requesting EHC on someone's behalf can, in some really serious cases, be a subtle sign of that kind of control or even abuse.
And the official guidance here is not a gray area. It is crystal clear. Both the General Pharmaceutical Council, which is the body that regulates pharmacists, and the NHS are totally explicit. EHC requires a direct consultation with the person who will be taking the medication. This isn't just a suggestion, it's a rule. It's the only way to do a proper clinical check and, most importantly, to make sure the patient is consenting freely and on their own.
And there's another layer to this. The Faculty of Sexual and Reproductive Healthcare, the FSRH, backs this up completely. Their guidelines say the pharmacist must assess every single patient for their ability to consent and for any signs that they might be exploited. And there is just no way to do that if you're talking to somebody else.
Okay, so with all those rules and responsibilities in mind, how did our pharmacist navigate this incredibly delicate conversation? This wasn't just about ticking boxes on a policy sheet. This was about turning those rules into a real-world act of protection. Well, the very first step was de-escalation. The pharmacist didn't just slam the door and say, no. They calmly and professionally explained why. They made it clear that a direct, private chat is required by policy, for both clinical safety and for legal reasons. See how that just takes the personal judgment out of it and frames it as a standard procedure?
And here's the really brilliant part. Instead of just hitting a brick wall, the pharmacist gave two very clear, very safe ways to move forward. The partner could either come to the pharmacy herself for a private consultation, or she could simply call the pharmacy directly. This shows that the goal isn't to block access, it's to provide care in the right, safe way.
So the man's response was to say he'd have her call, and then he left. But that call never came. There was just silence. And while we'll never know the full story, that silence really underscores the pharmacist's initial concern and kind of validates the cautious approach they took.
But the work didn't stop when the man walked out the door. Not at all. The pharmacist immediately logged a confidential safeguarding record, noting his description, the time, everything about the situation. This kind of documentation is so important. It creates a paper trail that can help spot patterns down the line, and it ensures that if there is something more going on, there's a record to start from. So, what can we all take away from this one very brief but very tense interaction? It's really a masterclass in professional responsibility and the art of communication.
Well, first and foremost, this story is a powerful reminder that safeguarding is literally everyone's job. And pharmacists, they are right there on the front lines, often in a unique position to spot those really subtle signs of concern. A third-party request for EHC isn't just an inconvenience. It's a critical moment to pause and put that patient's safety and autonomy first.
The next set of lessons is all about how to handle these moments. Staying calm, being non-judgmental, that's absolutely key to managing a tense conversation. And, like we saw, that careful documentation ensures that potential problems don't just disappear. It's about upholding professional integrity from the very beginning to the very end.
This quote right here, it just reframes the entire event perfectly. The pharmacist's no wasn't a barrier. It was a shield. It was an active choice to put the potential patient's well-being above the immediate request. It was an act of care in its most protective form. So in the end, this one little story from a Saturday morning has a much bigger meaning for all of us, whether we work in healthcare or are just trying to navigate the system ourselves.
This whole encounter really pulls back the curtain on a vital role that community pharmacists play every single day. They're not just there to dispense medicine. They are accessible healthcare professionals who act as a vigilant and often totally unseen part of our public safety net.
And so it all leaves us with a really powerful question to think about. In a world where we're always told to be helpful, to say yes, this case shows us that sometimes the most profoundly caring and helpful thing you can possibly do is to pause, follow the rules, and say no.